Hello everyone, and welcome all of you to Nikky Lyle Creative Presents with Industry Leaders, where today I'm joined by a very special guest, Neale Horrigan. Welcome, Neale. If you wouldn't mind just telling us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi guys, hi everyone. My name's Neale. I'm the Executive Creative Director of Elvis. Elvis, for those that don't know us, is a sort of a fairly small ad agency or creative agency. I always want to say based in Covent Garden, but we're not anymore. We've sort of moved during the pandemic, but we haven't actually been into an office for a while. So we are now located at London Bridge, and we do a lot of, I like to say, fun stuff. I think we specialise in things like kind of booze and chocolate and accounts like that. Hopefully the sort of the type of clients we have and the type of work we do is sort of reflected in our sort of personality. I'm sure we'll come on to Elvis a bit later on, but that's me. So
yeah, no, and I've been really looking forward to speaking to you, Neale, because I've personally been a big fan of the work that I've seen Elvis has been producing recently and the way you've been positioning yourselves as an agency, but we'll dive into that with the questions. So my first question for you is, at what point in your life did you have a defining moment where you thought, I want to become a creative?
Do you know what? I think I probably did. And I think over the years I've traced it back. You know, you try and find the origins of how it all happened. And I think when I was very young, I was about 5 years old, we moved to a small seaside town called Weston-super-Mare for my sins. And I remember like my parents taking us on a tour of the town, and we walked past the cinema, and there was that famous Jaws poster outside where they used to have big posters of the films on outside. And it was that classic, you know, the shark sort of coming up from under the water and then like someone swimming on the surface. And when I was 5, that was the most horrific sort of thing I'd ever seen, but I was so fascinated by it that I had no idea what it was. And then I sort of learned that it was a film, and then I started watching more and more films, and I was just like, I was always attracted to sort of the special effects side of things, and I got really into horror films and how they recreate the sort of the stuff that isn't real. And I watched this one film, which is still a great film, called American Werewolf in London, which went on to inspire like Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it was all about how this guy transforms into a werewolf. And again, as a kid, it was like, what the hell is this? It's like, it was incredible. And so I was absolutely adamant I wanted to go into special effects. I had no sort of skills to back this up at all, but that was where my interest lies. And so I went to see the sort of careers counsellor at school, and Weston-super-Mare didn't really have anything in the way of sort of Hollywood special effects offerings at that time. So they sort of sent me to art school, and there I did a graphic design degree, a graphic design sort of HND, and sort of fell into design really, and fell into graphics, still with the sort of intentions of one day becoming a special effects animator or a model maker. But then I sort of carried on this path of graphic design, went and did a degree. And it was only when I got to the end of that course that I realised that I probably didn't really want to do graphic design, because I wasn't very good at it. But I had a degree in it, which was bizarre. But what I really loved is the idea generation, coming up with the thinking. I always seemed to have lots of ideas and didn't know what to do with them. And then sort of, I think in our last year of uni, sort of specialised in advertising. But yeah, I think that's what set me on the course. But then as soon as I moved to London, when I finished uni, that was when it all sort of started, because that's when you get to go and look in agencies and speak to people that actually worked in this industry, and start to see how different it was from what you thought it was going to be when you're at uni.
Yeah,
I think that was my road. I'd still love to do special effects. Again, I'm still not qualified or skilled in any way to do it, but I think that's what led me to this place.
That's really interesting, and this is why I love asking this question, because there's so many different routes that people take, or like an epiphany that they have, and then it leads them into this industry, which I think is what makes the work even more interesting.
Yeah, there's so like in a in a creative department of an agency, it's so interesting. Everyone's come from those different backgrounds. Everyone's sort of come together in this department where you've got different skill sets and different opinions, and it's all sort of around this real desire to be creative or to have a creative output, but their input or where they've come from is massively different.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your first creative job as a designer?
Well, when I guess when I left uni, I came straight to London, and actually I sort of took my portfolio around the streets of London, knocking on doors and doing all that sort of stuff. And I think it was just placements. The first real glimpse into agencies was doing creative placements. So I was holding out for my dream job, and it just wasn't going to happen, because getting into this industry is extremely difficult. Mainly because I think there's not like endless amounts of jobs. There's not endless of like empty seats in creative departments. Sometimes it's a bit sort of dead man's shoes, you know, one out, one in. And it was likened to me at the time, like it was a bit like trying to find a parking space in the West End. You know, some people will drive around and round and round for forever trying to find one, and some people will, you know, turn down one road and a car pulls out and you move straight in. And it was different for everyone. So I think with that sort of analogy, we just like kept going round and round and round, just going into as many agencies as we could. And then I got my first actual job in a very small agency that doesn't exist anymore. And that was wonderful. Once I was sort of in the door and in the system, then I could sort of work out where I wanted to go within it, what agencies I loved, what work I loved, and it's sort of, then you grow within the industry and you hopefully end up where you actually wanted to start. Yeah. It's generally a long road and a lot of learning to get there.
And that is a great analogy. I've never thought of that before, about the car parking spaces, and the industry has always been difficult to get into. And I know at the moment there's lots of talks of, yeah, it is hard for grads right now. My heart really does go out to graduates, but the industry has always been tough. It's never been that there was like an abundance of roles for entry level people, because it's a real investment as well from an agency when they take on juniors and interns. And it is often like a good year of internships until you land that permanent role. I mean, what advice would you give to any juniors that might be listening to this?
I think for me, and I talk to quite a lot of kind of juniors and grads coming in, and I think what I've tried to do is kind of learn. If I could do it again, what would I do differently, I guess? And I think finding a place that you can connect to. So finding an agency that you admire, that you like the work that's sort of they're doing, the work that you can identify with, I think for me is key. And I would be inclined to sort of find a few agencies that are doing the sort of work that you can connect with, and then use that as your focus. Because otherwise I sort of think, like, again, I come out of university being sort of qualified, but yet qualified for what? I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I sort of figured that I would get a job somewhere and kind of learn on the job. But I think targeting an agency that I really admire and just like building a relationship with people there. Again, sort of some people just email us sort of cold, or some people email me looking for sort of internships. And actually, I think it's better to, and what I try and do is guide them to the people they need to speak to, and just help them out a little bit, because it's not me that's going to be interviewing them. You know, there's a lot of people in our department and a lot of people with responsibilities, and I think guiding them to the right people, and for them to start building up a relationship with that person, to keep sending them work, keep coming to see them. Obviously, you know, when it was in a physical space, it's brilliant to be able to drop in, show off your book, show your new work, and just be interested in the agency and what they're doing. And then, and I just find that sort of, that helps mold your thinking and helps mold the sort of creative or the designer or whoever you want to be, based on what an agency is doing. And I sort of think that some of the mistakes I potentially made was just being a creative person and then expecting someone to just snap me up because of that. Although, like, because you sort of feel like you have an offering. But you know, our agency is quite small. We only have certain openings, and we know what we're looking for, or we know what we haven't got. We know what we'd like to have. So you've got to fit a certain mold as well. And so we're always looking for people. But I think having focus on an agency that you respect and you'd like to work for is I think a good way to do it.
Yeah, and this is, I love that you said that, Neale, because that's my advice to creators is find your home, find what's going to be the right fit for you. And I give loads of people advice about approach and how to reach out to companies. And it's interesting that you said, if someone wants to work for you and they want to work for Elvis, and they reach out and they say, this is why I want to work for your agency, because I love this campaign you did for Cadbury, or this campaign you did here, and then you're more likely to say, okay, they get what we do, maybe they might be the right fit for us. And almost applying your application, demonstrating why you'd be a good fit as well.
That's it. I mean, I'd love someone to tell me why they think the work we do is right for them, or what they could bring to the table. I remember interviewing someone once in person, like a creative, and I said sort of like, what's your dream agency? And that was a sort of broad, as in, I want to be in a place that does this or does that and blah, blah, blah. And they said, VCCP. I was like, you do know you're in an interview at Elvis. I mean, you're telling me your dream agency is VCCP. This is probably not going to go that well for you. You know, I asked that question more in a broader sense about like, where do you want to be? Where do you feel you can make a difference? What can you add? What do you want to add? You know, we're not expecting like juniors or grads to know much at all. We just want them to come to the table with a certain way of thinking, or their individual way of thinking, and like tons of enthusiasm, because like we want to bring in the next wave of excitement and like passion and get a buzz in the agency. You know, we've got people in the agency that can do the job and do it really well. We're not after more of those. We're after people that are going to bring something to the table.
Well, that was going to be my next question for you, is like, what do you look for in the graduates that you're hiring? So you're saying like passion and excitement and good ideas. And I think that's what everyone wants from a junior. They're like the lifeblood of an agency.
That's it. I mean, we look to juniors for the next like point of inspiration. Like, you know, you don't need sort of like old folk like me telling you what's happening in the world. It's like, you know, I do a very different job than that now. So everyone looks to the juniors to bring in the fresh excitement, the interest, and I think that's all we can ask for. It's I want someone to bring something to the table, and a lot of the time it's like it's personality, and it's personality in the work, or opinions on the work, or what they want to do, or where they want to be, or you know, what's wrong with us as a business, what's wrong with us as an agency. Come and tell us how you think you do it differently. You know, we aren't like the be all and end all. We don't know everything. We're not perfect. We're all still on a journey, and the next wave of people coming in are going to define that journey and what the future of our business will be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with juniors, all the technology that they're using at the moment, it's pretty incredible, the software that's out there, social media platforms like TikTok and all the rest of it. And I think with juniors, you almost want them to say, okay, how does your generation want to be communicated with? Are we getting it wrong? Are we hitting the right notes of how we're communicating with you? I mean, what do you look for in regards to like portfolios? Do you prefer a PDF portfolio? Do you prefer a website? Is there a way you like people to put together their applications?
I think I personally prefer a website, just because I've sort of have my folder of like anyone that's approached me that I sort of started looking at their work. I keep it and go back to it and have a look and remind myself of who they are. But the thing with the website, it's being updated like quite often. So, you know, rather than someone having to send me through like the latest PDF, then I don't know which one was the latest one, or I've saved that one down and put that in the folder, but it's probably not the latest work. Versus a website, I just find a little bit more current, a bit more up to date. I like to sort of, when I have the time, have a flick around someone's site and you know, have a look at what they've done that's recent or what's changed. And so for me it's a website.
Okay.
Obviously, obviously the world has changed, but over anything, I'd much prefer to meet people.
Yeah.
I think, come in, have a cup of coffee. You can get a sense of someone from their portfolio very quickly, but what I really want to know is like the person behind the portfolio. Sometimes a portfolio is actually quite a few restrictions of jobs they've had to do, or it didn't start out like this but we ended up here, or I had to do this because like the college were telling me that this, actually I want to talk to the person behind it and go, what do you want to do, what couldn't you do that like to this day, or what if you were coming to Elvis, what would you want from me, how could I make you better, what would you really love to have a go at, what haven't you worked on yet that you'd love to work on, and why. And I want to hear about people's drive and passion, and then how I can help them rather than just them showing me what they've done in the past. So it's a bit more forward facing, I guess.
I guess a lot of people in the industry, like industry leaders such as yourself, they tend to look for the voice, like the person behind that, and maybe communication in the portfolio. So, okay, we all know not always the most exciting route is chosen by the client, and you don't just want a portfolio of like mock-ups and like final, like this is how it was. It's like, what's your process? How do you think? And how could you communicate that voice in Elvis and in our agency?
I think that's it. And a lot of people, certainly grads, where they've been on placements, what have you, in other agencies, they've actually had work made that's gone live, and they're very proud of that, and that takes a sort of a centerpiece of the portfolio. And like I said, to me, we've got loads of creatives in the agency that do that for a living, and I guess it's the balance for me isn't about seeing what they've done. I want to talk to them about what they want to do. And I think when you are starting out in this journey, you don't have much experience, you desperately want to show the experience you have got, to show that you're almost worthy of being employable. And that's not necessarily what makes you employable. What we're looking for is like who you are, what's the brains, the personality behind the work. And sometimes if something's really polished or finished that gets shown to me, I like to strip it back a bit and go back to where the thought came from, or what that thought process was, what led you there. Because I guess that's from my role, or any creative director, we're here to direct that creativity. We're here to direct it in the right place. And if someone comes and shows me the answer, it might not be what I think the answer should be, but the thinking is in there. So I like to dig into that a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So you've been producing some really interesting work, as I said earlier, at Elvis, which is why I was quite keen to talk to you about that. Could you tell us a bit about some of the projects you've been producing at the moment and how you're positioning yourselves as an agency?
Yeah, we could start. So we I think we had a bumper year last year. It was incredible. For everything that was like catastrophic in 2020, we actually produced some really good work, won some really good awards. And I've just got them like on my window ledge here to go. It's like, because we don't have an office at the moment, when we win awards, they have to be sent somewhere, so they sort of get sent to me. So I put them on my window ledge, and it looks like, look at all these awards I've won. But I'm trying to recreate like a mini Elvis here at home. But I think the work that we're probably most famous for is the work we do on Creme Egg. We've been working on Creme Egg for about 7 years, I'd say, and it's a bit of a flagship for us. It's a really good way to represent everything we do and all our capabilities at Elvis, and it's just a wonderful client and a wonderful project to work on. And I think the thing about Creme Egg, which still a lot of people don't know, I don't know if you like cream eggs or not. I'm actually not a huge fan, so it's okay to say no. But people go crazy for cream eggs. Like, there are super fans out there, which I guess there must be for most products. But cream eggs are only available for 3 or 4 months a year, and so it's a bit like, we talk about Creme Egg a bit like, which I imagine sort of the John Lewis Christmas ad is. Once you finish one, you're working on the next one for the next year. So as soon as the Creme Egg season is over at Easter, we have like 2 weeks off, and then we're back on about like what we're going to do for the following season, which will start on Jan 1st. So there's always something Creme Egg going on in the agency, and it's such a fantastic project to work on, because I think for something like a tiny little funny chocolate egg that's been around for 50 years and hasn't changed in that time, each year we've got to reinvent it. And each year we have an uplift in sales, each year we win more awards. And so I think that's testament to what we do. But I love it. It's like literally each year, what are we going to do? What are we going to do this time? And like this year is the 50th anniversary. So we created the Golden Jubilee. And we did a piece with Gary Barlow a couple of weeks ago on his 50th birthday. And if I think about where we started out with Creme Egg, doing the odd few social posts here and there a few years ago, now we're doing sort of big ads with Gary Barlow on his birthday. I sort of look at how far we've brought it. But I think it's a great brand. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's sort of like Cadbury's mischievous younger brother. And I think that means we can have a lot of fun with it. And we're always trying to do something we haven't done before. And each year will be something different. Like I said, this year it's launching about all about the Jubilee, but it's celebrating all the fans out there, and it harks back to the days of How Do You Eat Yours. Last year we launched a streaming platform where we wrote lots of films and content, which was incredible. The year before that, we did a huge Easter egg hunt where we hid our product in other brands' advertising, which was like an incredible feat that I'm amazed we pulled off. But that was amazing. Then the year before that, we invented the white cream egg, which people went crazy for. So it's like each year it's a whole new challenge, but those challenges aren't set from the client or set from the briefs that we're given. It's we look within ourselves as a business to how can we raise the bar again.
Yeah,
it's getting to the point where it's going up and up and up and up, and like I don't know how long we can sustain it, but I mean it's going well.
I think one of the ones that really stood out to me was the one where you had two men with a cream egg in their mouth, and that loads of people in the industry were going, wow, that's a proper ad, that is, and quite controversial. And how were Creme Egg when you pitched that to them?
Well, again, it's like it was around the How Do You Eat Yours, the line from sort of back in the 80s was really good about this funny little egg that was extremely versatile, that some people bit the top off, some people scooped out the goo, some people ate the whole thing all in one. Because again, there wasn't, you weren't selling that the chocolate tastes really nice or the fondant goo is really delicious. It's like, it is what it is. Yeah. So why don't we talk about, or why don't we aim the sort of conversation at the sort of people that eat them or the people that like them? And I think this year we did a celebration of that. And I guess we just wanted to be inclusive. And it wasn't really something that we went out to massively PR. I mean, we used an actual gay couple in the ad, and they were sharing a cream egg. And we actually got quite a lot of backlash at the time because, during COVID and social distancing and not touching people, let alone sort of, snogging over a cream egg, was like that we were giving out the wrong message. But it was an actual couple used. And they were really sort of proud of that. They were like very genuine, and I think it came from the right place, and it came from us just wanted to be much more representative. The focus was never meant to be on that scene. In fact, it's a small scene amongst many different vignettes, but when it went out to the press, they picked up on that and almost like screen grabbed that iconic or what that now iconic scene and made so much more of it. And obviously that comes then with a lot of backlash, and we have to do a lot of community management and a lot of, there's obviously trolls out there, and we have to support not only the people in the ad, but just try and sort of deal with the torrent of abuse that comes with it. But yeah, we never really meant to go out to like be controversial. It was just part of the piece. I think the controversial nature came from all the publications that picked it up and used that as the sort of the thumbnail on all the articles, which sort of led to its, that its fame, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite interesting, isn't it, that people are kind of looking out for something sometimes, especially with the press. It makes it a bit more exciting, clickbaity.
Yeah.
Or look at this.
And what's been great is that since then it's raised a lot of questions, and then Mondelez that is that sort of owns Cadbury and obviously those brands affected, it's enabled them to sort of stand up and support it. And you've got a great big sort of corporation like Mondelez who are backing it. It's not something we did as a whim that we thought would like raise a few eyebrows, and it was something we truly believed in that should be done, and no one questioned it at any point. So it wasn't like a hard sell for any of our clients. It wasn't a hard sell at all. I guess we are in the position we're in. We are well on that journey. What you sort of forget is that a lot of people viewing it aren't as far on that journey as you are, and then it's gonna have some backlash. But Mondelez and Cadbury are well behind it and always have been. Yeah,
that's great. Do you have any projects you can think of that you're particularly proud of?
I have to say everything I do, right? I mean,
there might be some standout projects that spring to mind.
I think, we had a really proud moment back in December. That basically at the beginning of last year, we worked with Ladbible Group and Unilad on creating an illegal blood bank. I don't know if you've seen any of that. But
I love that, and that's one use some of the pencils as well.
Yeah, I mean that's one a hell of a lot. But I think that maybe I'll talk about that, because I think that got to a point, like I said, in December, which had this incredible result. But that project was a proactive project from us. That sometimes you look at the agency and you've got a load of talented people doing amazing jobs every day, and you sort of think if you could focus that talent on making a real difference or doing something that like had real purpose to it, then who wouldn't want to do that? And I think we'd seen what Ladbible did with another agency the previous year when they created something called Trash Isles. And it was to highlight the problem of pollution in the seas. And they created there's this big floating island of pollution that was so big they sort of turned it into a country. And it was amazing. They won a lot of awards, but it shed a new light for us on Ladbible as a media channel, and all their influence and all their connections. We just thought what a brilliant partner to do something with. So we came up with lots of different ideas about stuff we could do, and one of them was the one that we took to them, which was about the blood bank. And essentially that comes from, I don't know if you've ever given blood, there's you've got to tick all the boxes. There's a box in there that said if you're a man that's had sex with another man within the last 3 months, tick this box. And if you tick it, you're then not allowed to give blood. And we thought that was like why? All the blood gets tested anyway. So this is just sort of this didn't seem fair. So we looked into it a bit more and found that there was actually there's actually charities set up. One of them was Freedom to Donate, and they were pushing for a change in the law to get this change because it was discriminatory. So we sort of joined up with them and set about doing a campaign to see how we could help, basically, and help change it. And what we did was we set up an illegal blood bank, and it was called the Illegal Blood Bank because it's illegal to take blood from a gay or bisexual man that's had sex in the last 3 months, because the law won't permit it. So we created a blood bank where we could take that blood from these individuals that volunteered and have it tested and prove that it was safe. So it was all about this blood was going to waste. And I mean, we we desperately wanted to do something really good, something really meaningful that would make a difference to a lot of people's lives, and hopefully change a law. But yeah, opening up your own blood bank, it took months and months and months, and just, you know, you can't just pick someone off the street and go and take a pint of their blood. You know, we're not in any way experienced to do so, and they're not going to be trusting of you in any way, shape, form, and just getting all the insurances in place. And the whole thing was an incredible amount of work from a lot of very dedicated people at Elvis. And so we created the illegal blood bank. We took all these donations, these blood donations, we had them all tested, everything was clean. And we sort of made a case for it all, and then Freedom to Donate used a lot of our findings, and we created all the like the logos and the identity and all that sort of stuff, so it had all the ammunition to use. And we found out in December that there'd been a sort of a landmark legislation change, and that the law was going to change as of, I think it's like sometime in the next couple of months. So it won't just be a sort of blanket ban on those people, which is incredible, because there's so many heartfelt stories about people that have got relatives that were in dire need of blood, and they want to go to a blood bank to give their blood to help the people they love, but they were turned away just because they were gay or bisexual.
Yeah, I know. It was ridiculous. That was something that was still the law, and it's like, okay, so gay people can get married, etc., but you can't give blood and save a life, and we're going to give you that prejudice stigma about HIV and AIDS still, and you still have to carry that. But I love the fact that you took the downtime in December, you got all the team together at Elvis, and you managed to change that. I mean, Neale, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we you know, we were a very small part of that, but you know, like I said, the guys at Freedom to Donate have been campaigning for this for many years, and we just came along and gave it a bit of an identity, and then used our channels, and obviously working with Unilad and Ladbible, who is a massive sort of media channel in its own right.
Yeah.
It just got the message out there, made it a bit more public. I mean, we made, you know, the 6 o'clock news. It was like a headline story, and you know, there aren't many times, again, like you going back to your original question about sort of work that you're proud of, when you sit down and watch the news and it talks about this blood bank that's opened and for all these reasons, and you've got, you know, the newsreader on the BBC News talking about it, you sort of know that all that hard work and dedication from everyone at Elvis and everyone in the team and everyone at, you know, Ladbible Group and Freedom Today, we've achieved something. Do you know what I mean? You've everyone got their focus. We set out to do something. We had no idea what we were doing or what the solution would be, and we pulled together and did something, and that meant a lot to everyone. And it's definitely one of the greatest sort of projects I've ever been involved in. And then, I mean, it's great to win awards. We won a lot off the back of that, but it's not just literally having the physical trophies. It's about, like, these are global awards. In every award ceremony, there's all of our work there. Everyone judging it is learning something about what we tried to do, and it's more and more PR for the cause rather than just for us. So yeah, hugely gratifying to be part of.
Yeah, and from myself personally, I've been a D&AD judge. I was president judge last year, and I know the scrutiny that goes into winning one of those pencils as well.
I have to say, and going back to getting into this industry, right from the very beginning, I saw like the yellow pencil, and it was so iconic. And I think when I was doing placements and I was going around doing internships, I'd be sometimes, like, if a team were on a shoot somewhere, you could use their office, and they'd have pencils on their desk or something like that where they'd won them, and I wasn't prepared to touch one, pick one up at all, until it was like something that I'd been part of. Yeah. And last year, you know, we've been trying for a very long time. Last year was the first time that we got a yellow pencil. So it feels like long time coming, but yeah, extremely proud moment, because they're so hard to get, and we won it for all the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations, definitely well earned award there. So do you have one question I was going to ask actually before I go on to the next one is, do you have any LGBT people in your team?
Yes.
Yeah. And were they kind of part of the driving force behind it, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have some, again, wonderful people in our agency, and it's brilliant where you have members of your team that have such a in-depth knowledge and can guide and be a sounding board, and sometimes we'll create some work that needs to have a sort of broader appeal, and very often we'll get it wrong, and I think everyone's so scared of getting it wrong that to have people involved in the project from the beginning, and it's the same when we did the blood bank, just knowing how to speak, and or not even knowing how to speak, not being afraid to ask the questions most of the time, or get the questions wrong, but it's fine. But we have people that are involved in all of these projects moving forward that are absolutely invaluable when it comes to information, guidance, and just like diversity, representation, inclusion on a whole. We have people in the agency that are extremely clued up on it and advise on everything. Like I said, we do get it wrong. It's very easy to get it wrong, but it's I guess part of learning and developing and adapting and moving forward with more knowledge.
Well, this is it. Like, agencies nowadays, they have to have diverse voices, and not only that, inclusion. Real inclusion, where people are as part of the process, and making sure that the language that's being used is appropriate and not offensive. So you're not releasing something out to that certain demographic and you've missed something completely wrong.
Yeah, that's it. And it just, it's not about sort of tokenism and just having a representation. It needs to come from, just by putting people of color or disability into ads isn't enough. It needs to come from those people. They need to be involved in the process. Even down to who's directing it, or who we're using for part of our casting, or how much of our casting is broad and diverse. And it needs to run through everything you do, not just be the bit that people see and sort of makes them think that we've done something good. It has to be in absolutely ingrained in the project from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Neil. It's so important. And I think the agencies that aren't aware of that or introducing that are going to be the ones that are going to be left behind, because I know we mentioned earlier, but in 2020, everyone's had a chance to really sit and think. There's been certain key things that we've acknowledged and accepted in the world. And it's like, well, you either learn from that, we either move forwards and progress, or you don't and you get left behind. There's no denying certain things anymore.
And everything moves so fast. I think there was a time when ad agencies and the ad industry were the people that had a voice, and because you've got billboards and TV spots that give you this voice to be able to say whatever you want, and that was the real old school way of looking at it. And I think that was the uprising in street art and graffiti, because why should all these corporations be allowed to put their messages on the street, and people with creativity and a voice didn't have that option, and it had to be illegal. And then now I think with social media, everyone has that platform. I mean, I absolutely love TikTok. I think it is such a hub of incredibly creative people that most of our inspiration comes from TikTok. A lot of the kind of the younger guys at work in the department are saying, if you see it on TikTok, a year later it will end up in an ad somewhere in the ad industry. So it's it's a bit of a crystal ball. You can look at it and see what incredibly creative individuals are doing, and learn from that.
Yeah, well, this is the beauty of TikTok, isn't it? It's kind of like what people are crafting and creating when they don't need to go to an agency to produce it for them. It's something I've been looking into myself as well, about how I'm communicating with designers and creators that are looking for work, is creating a TikTok reel full of advice about the industry for engagement. Do you have any examples of a creative mistake you've made?
An actual mistake I've made?
Or just in general, you can think of because sometimes it can start off as a mistake, but then there's a way you can pivot and spin it where it works out for the best. Or some people have made really big mistakes, like typos on billboards or things like that.
I mean, I've done whole campaigns that shouldn't have really been done. I mean, that were done for all the wrong reasons. And I look back at some sort of TV ads that I made ages ago that we let, I think, creativity try and rule. We tried to be like really creative, and we sort of missed the audience and missed the message. But I think there are, I wouldn't say I've ever sort of missed a word off anything, or made sort of small mistakes like that. I've made mistakes in like being too complacent, or not being rigorous, or not pushing myself enough. We always used to sort of talk about the overnight test. So come up with an idea or create something and then park it, leave it, and come back fresh the next day and then change it. Don't sort of check in on it an hour later and go, I still like it. Come back the next day when you've had time to see. And then if it's not glaringly obvious what's wrong with it, then I think you've got to question yourself, how could you better it?
Yeah. So
it's probably fine and it probably works really well and you're probably really happy with it, but you've just bought yourself maybe an extra day. So how would you mess with it? What if you did it completely different? What if you moved it, like if it was a layout, what if you moved everything around? Is the hierarchy right? You just got to push it and play with it. And I think there are many instances when I didn't give myself the time to do that, or was a bit too comfortable at the time. And, I hate to say that'll do. Or done is better than perfect from an art director's point of view. That just doesn't wash. And I think the mistakes that I've personally made is probably where I've let a few things go that will sort of eternally bug me, because if I'd only changed that one bit or tweaked that or used that different font or pushed that a bit, it would have been a better ad. And I've probably got a lot of those. I just don't admit to most of them. Yeah. But I think that's my job as an ECD now, is that I can see all those potential or the potential room for development. And I'm there to creatively direct. So it's for me to push back to the teams or the designers to say, have you thought about this? What about that? Why don't we try this? Yeah. And I can sort of almost use my mistakes to pass on to make sure that no one else makes them.
Yeah, it's good. I like how honest you were with that answer as well, actually, because sometimes it is worth taking just a bit more time rather than just trying to get the work out the door. And the devil is in the detail and standing the test of time. You're looking back on it and you're just like, oh, if that's out there, and if only.
Well, we like our agency positioning, which we put in place a few years ago, is unexpected and unforgettable. Mm-hmm. And that, like all agencies, come up with their own little kind of mantras or sort of their positioning, and we didn't. It's normally like like great creative that actually works, and we wanted to create something that was a constant that we constantly had to try and achieve. So unexpected, unforgettable. There's no plan B. There's no, some things you just drop the un off the two words and it's expected and forgettable. And I mean, no one sets out to do expected and forgettable work. No one wants to do mediocre, not the clients, not the people in the agency, no one wants to do that. So by raising this bar and talking about unexpected and unforgettable, you're constantly striving for it, and it should be in everything we do. And it was picked up really well internally by everyone in the agency. And now we apply it to everything from our interview process to the work we do to the summer party to whatever it might be. It's our thing. And I think that is a constant reminder that we've got to continuously push and evolve, because like I said, we don't want to create expected work. We want to create something that is exciting.
Yeah, and I think you've definitely been achieving that recently with some of the stuff I've been noticing that you've been producing, which is
definitely found our groove at the moment.
Yeah, no, it seems that you really have. Are there any exciting projects we should be looking out for that will be coming out soon? Or
we won PepsiCo as a big sort of client not too long ago, and we've started doing some interesting work with them. There's a few things on the horizon. Like we launched a Doritos PlayStation partnership just before Christmas, and there's going to be a lot more coming from Doritos and PlayStation, and more from Walkers, and more from PepsiCo in general. I think it really fits the sort of type of work we do, and we were absolutely over the moon to win them as a business, because the sort of the portfolio of brands that they have are so suited to our personality and the way we work and the things that we like doing. And so I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming that way. But FMCG seems to be our sort of heartland at the moment, and we do a lot of, like I said, fun stuff at the beginning. It's chocolate or crisps or beer or soft drinks or something, it's stuff that doesn't take itself too seriously, enables us to do work that we love.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations on winning PepsiCo. I'm sure that'll be lots of fun. And it's great because you have that kind of the tagline, strapline of who you are, what you're about, and that's what clients expect from you. And I find that for me personally, when I clarified mine, creative recruitment conscience, I only have companies that approach me that consider that when they're hiring. Actually, so it just means that you just swerve all those other clients that you don't necessarily want to work with anyway.
And you know what, like when I talk about Unexpected Unforgettable, we always talk to clients about that, and we always talk to them about they can use that as a stick to beat us with as well. If we do get complacent or we do get lazy, then this is what we promise that we'll deliver you. And if for some reason you think we're not delivering it, then you can tell us. And that is brilliant. We're arming them with our own positioning to make sure that we deliver what we say we do, or we say we're going to. It hasn't happened too much yet, this is good. But
so we've just been asked a question from Carla, which said, how many senior women designers do you have at Elvis?
We don't have any senior women designers at the moment. We've just hired a new female designer. We've got two midweight designers, but we don't have any seniors. We've got quite a small design department, so the most senior person in the department is male. But we've got two female designers who, like I said, one is new in this year. She started on the 4th, and again, that's like truly exciting. We're looking to build our design department much more, and just again a bit of diversity and a bit of excitement. And to any new person coming in, they've come from a different background, they've done different work, they've been in other agencies. I want to know what they know. I want to see what they've done, and I want to see what they're going to bring to the table. And I'm super excited about working with her.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And Alex has asked, what's the story behind the name Elvis?
Do you know what? I think like Elvis has been around for quite a while. Like the Elvis is a business, not the business that it currently is at the moment, but it's probably been around over 15 years. And I think the founder at the time was literally an Elvis fan. I like to think that, there was some sort of post-rationalization to creating fans. Like I think we had a positioning once which was like audience to fans. So how do you take an audience and turn them into like devoted fans? And I think that's sort of what Elvis did. He came along and changed the way that people used to go to concerts, and people screaming and throwing their underwear at the stage. And I think like we'd like to sort of maybe post-rationalize that that's why we're called Elvis, because we like to be some sort of transformational tool. But it's actually, I think the founder liked the name, or was a fan of Elvis. He liked cricket and Elvis at the time, so it was either going to be called Elvis or the Oval. And I think he chose well. But
this is great. Now, I love Elvis. I've actually been to Graceland and I've done the tour. Yeah. No, I wouldn't say like absolutely obsessive die-hard Elvis fan, but I'm a big fan of Elvis. Actually, incredible person. But not only that, you realise that when he just before he passed away, he didn't have as much wealth, because there's this section right at the back of the mansion which is just where he donated all of his money.
Wow.
He gave a lot of his wealth away, and Graceland's quite a modest sized building. It's not absolutely huge, but yeah.
And I guess what I've always liked about Elvis, not necessarily the name, but the brand that we've sort of created, is there's preconceptions about what we might be like. If you're going to call yourself Elvis, like it's not a kind of a standard name, and that you've got certain things you need to live up to, or it should be a fun or an interesting kind of place to have a name like that.
Yeah.
So it's it's always been a bit of a sort of benchmark for us to deliver on it. I've always sort of talked about that there's an agency called Elvis, and you turn up and you realize that all we do is sort of, business to business, like, or healthcare ads, or, I don't think you can call yourself Elvis and do that sort of work. So I think the kind of work we do lives up to the sort of name or the brand that we have. And I think that's what always excites me.
Definitely. So a question here from Nicola is, what's the structure of your teams? So like strategy and design, etc.
So there's quite a lot to sort of pick out there, but
it's quite.
I guess my role as ECD and the creative directors work much more with strategy. So our strategy department, we spend a lot of time with right at the beginning of briefs. We do a lot of the initial work when we've had the brief from client. We sit down together as a department. I think strategy and creative work exceptionally well together. So we spend some time formulating the brief, and so you get the brief is always the first step on the creative ladder, and so it needs to be right from the beginning. So strategy and sort of senior creative pods working together to create the right brief to then go into the department is probably how we work best with strategy. But then the brief would go into the creative department. The creative department is made of offline creatives, which are we still have the copywriter, art director partnerships. So we have like 4 creative teams, and then we have our designers and design studio, which is artwork and design, creative artwork. And then obviously we have our tech department, we have motion and photography. So that all sits under the creative department, but the brief comes in from the top through strategy and normally myself, and then goes into the appropriate people. And we, depending on the project, we then set up a project team. So your project team might well be a creative team, a designer, a motion graphics guy, or a tech guy, and then they work from the beginning on what that project would be. Yeah. And then I think everyone's responsible for it from the off. And I think that's the same reason our art directors and copywriters work together, is that 2 heads are better than 1. And I think when you've got a project team on the bigger projects right from the beginning, it's going to be that much better. No one wants to take sort of some finished article and just have to mack it up or make it move, or So being involved from the beginning is the most effective.
How many people do you have at Elvis at the moment in total?
I think probably at the moment about 50. We've always been quite small. I think that's small, but it sort of comes and goes. We generally try to keep the numbers quite lean. We have a lot of, again, very good, very talented people, and then we have to rely on freelance as and when we need it to sort of bolster out the departments, and then the numbers fluctuate quite a bit. But I think it's better to do it that way and have a sort of solid, tight group of individuals that then get bolstered with freelance, rather than having lots of people kind of sat around not being used to their best potential. If you're sat around twiddling your thumbs, you'll get put on projects you don't want to be doing, or isn't your skill set, or and then sometimes there's no coming back from some of that.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of agencies seem to prefer that model of having like a lean perm team, and then just bringing in freelancers project by project as well, like sometimes.
Yeah, and also skill sets. We'll bring in different sort of motion guys, or more retouching guys, or CG guys, or like people that can, like, illustrators, visualizers, people that are brilliant at bringing our work to life. There's so much talent out there. In the same way you'd pick a director or a photographer if you're creating a film or ad. We'll pull in the people that will make our work like so much better than it actually is, because they're brilliant at what they do.
Yeah. So a question here from Nicola is, would you consider people with different experience in FMCG? And if so, what would you be looking for?
Different experience than FMCG?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like FMCG is like I said, our sort of bit of our staple. But then, look at what we've just done on Blood Bank that I was talking about. I mean, it couldn't be any further from FMCG if it tried. Yeah. And we're still very keen to do that. I think it's just our heartland. We employ lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, and FMCG definitely isn't the driver. It just seems to be the work that I think we're probably good at, so we do the majority of. But what we're always looking to do is do something we've never done before, and again, the blood bank was an example of that. And we hope to do a new blood bank this year of some sort. We're not sure yet, but again, these projects, they're always pro bono. We need as many different people from as many different backgrounds to come together to make it like amazing. So yeah, I don't think we just happen to do a lot of FMCG work. We've tried doing other sort of projects for more sort of techie companies and stuff like that, and I just don't think we're that good at it. We're better doing what we know. We just seem to shine.
See, sometimes it's good to just stay in your lane, isn't it? It's like, this is where you're really good. But then with the blood banks of pro bono, I think it's brilliant. Like when an agency will take their infrastructure and their talent and they'll create a campaign or project like that can be really good for like social change and good. And it seems like whenever you look at what Elvis are up to at the moment, you seem to be mindful of things like that, like carbon footprints, etc.
Everything at the moment is environmental based. Like all the sort of courses and everything we're doing is all around the environment. We're like on our journey to get B Corp certification. We are very mindful to try and sort of eliminate the kind of negative impact of production, because everything we create has some sort of impact on the globe. And whatever we do, whether it's a Creme Egg or a blood bank, everything needs to make sure that it fits with our better world objectives and our sort of, like I said, the negative impact and carbon footprint. And every project will go through that at the moment, and it's just such a hot topic and has been since this pandemic, really. I mean, people have seen that by staying at home, the world's starting to recover, and people feel energized to be able to do more. And I think that's certainly really important to us at the moment.
Well, this is one of the things I found really exciting. Like when we spoke earlier, I was saying to you about how the candidates and creators that were out there in 2019 are slightly more evolved nowadays after 2020 being in lockdown. Everyone's had a chance to think and assess, and companies and brands and businesses have to follow suit because consumers are looking at that, and they're going to be
huge mindset change. I'd say everything. What was your highest priority this time last year isn't probably your highest priority at the moment. So much mindset has changed, and it's funny. I was watching some of the Super Bowl ads. Obviously, that's a big sort of highlight, and from looking at those, you wouldn't think there's a pandemic on at all. It just nothing seems to have changed. So it might just be the American market. It might just be the nature of Super Bowl ads, but our whole sort of direction has changed. I mean, the way we operate, the fact that we're not in an office, the amount we're saving on, like, our carbon footprint from travel to as individuals, and then having more time to give more back, to have more understanding, and being really focused on what our objectives are going forward. And I suppose for a smaller business like us, it's much easier to do and align the business internally. But yeah, everyone's mindset's hugely changed.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's a really good way to wrap up the talk. So Neale, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone that tuned in as well and asked some good questions. And yeah, good luck with everything. As I said, I've loved the work you've been producing, so I cannot wait to see what the next chapter for Elvis is going to look like.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be as exciting as the last chapter. But yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone. Absolute pleasure.